Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the LoCASE Grant Clinic. Myself and Kerry Byott on the call will be going through some slides this morning just to give you the latest information on the LoCASE business growth grants and the energy efficiency grants as we know at this date on the 29th of January. We suspect that some of this information will change as the programmes developing over the next few weeks, but you are the first to hear the information, and we will provide updates as and when we get them. But at this moment in time, the information is correct, but as I say, the caveat that it could tweak and change over the next 2 weeks. So my name's Lorraine Bell. I'm the commercialisation manager of the Green Growth platform, which is part of Clean Growth UK, a university-led network of about 1,800 clean and green businesses across the UK, and we work in partnership with Liverpool John Moores University and Portsmouth University to run this innovation network where we encourage companies to either adopt cleaner or greener technologies and processes, or if they are delivering clean and green goods and services in their businesses, helping their businesses to grow. And you'll learn more from the information we provide about LoCASE today, how that helps companies to do just that. Kerry, do you just want to say hello so everyone recognises your name?
Yeah, morning everyone. Kerry Byott, so I'm the Business Growth Manager, working with Lorraine on the Clean Growth UK and Green Growth platform team. So everything that Lorraine has already covered, we're client facing, and we're both very much working on the LoCASE programme, so to help and assist you with your grant applications, which we'll obviously cover in a bit more detail shortly.
So welcome everybody. Ordinarily we'd be in a nice room with a nice warm cup of coffee and some Danishes, but we're on Teams as we have been for the last 10 months. So apologies about the formal presentation, and hopefully in due course we will get to meet some of you in person when we get out of this pickle. Okay, so the clinic this morning is just going to cover several areas of the grants, really give you some information on how you would apply for the grants, what's involved, what's eligible, which type of companies are eligible, and some examples as well. So you're all part of the Clean Growth UK network, and if you're not, we encourage you to join, and we'll give you some details on that at the end of the session. But you know, we're here with the Green Growth platform here to support businesses through this journey. So if you get to the end of this presentation and think, oh my gosh, that sounds a lot of work to try and apply for a grant, don't worry, Kerry and I are here to support you. Okay, so can you just see the list of topics we're going to go over there? I just want to make sure my slides have moved on. Kerry, is that right?
Yeah.
Great,
all
okay.
Present and correct.
Perfect. That's always good to do. It's a little alarming when you're doing this because you can see a screen, but you can't necessarily guarantee your slides have moved on with you. So what is LoCASE? So LoCASE came around about 3 or 4 years ago. It's European Regional Development Fund money, and we work in partnership with Kent County Council, Essex County Council, and a few other councils here to deliver this programme across what is called the South East Local Economic Partnership Area. That is going to be extending later this year, and hopefully more imminently in the springtime, and we'll go on to that point in a moment. But the funding is there to try and help stimulate demand and supply of the low carbon economy in this area, and the purposes of the grant is to really try and drive that network. In the last round of funding, we distributed a large amount of grant funding to businesses in East Sussex as the University of Brighton delivery partner, and hopefully, all being well, this programme will be extended through to Brighton and Hove and the West Sussex area and through to Hampshire in the spring. So there's just a few contractual things holding that up at the moment, but hopefully that will be coming. The government money has been approved. So you may want to know how we've got European money when we're out of the EU. This pot of funding is really part of our sort of a divorce agreement, really. So it's money that it's as part of our exit from the EU has been agreed to still remain in our economic development pot until March 2023. So there is a limit to this, and our job as delivery partners is try and get as much of that money out into the business community as possible. Okay, Kerry, have I missed anything in that slide? Please jump in if I have.
No, that's everything. Yeah.
Okay, so what grants are available? Essentially, there are two types of grants available. Oh, I think if I just the
one.
Has it gone back up? Sorry.
Go back one.
Yep, there you go. I thought I touched a button. So there's two types of grants available. Grants are available for businesses in any sector, with a few non-eligible parts we'll come to in a moment, but most businesses are available to access what's called the Energy Efficiency Grant. And this grant is available to help try and reduce the carbon footprint and the energy costs of a business. And we'll go into some more detail of that in a moment. The other grant that's available is a business growth grant, and that is for businesses in sort of low carbon and environmental sectors, and we'll break that down shortly as well. So there's two grants, and at the moment this is available for businesses in the East Sussex area, not including Brighton and Hove, Kent and Essex, until we get our extension funding, which will include Brighton and Hove, West Sussex and Hampshire. So I know there's some people on the call who are sort of based in that geography, so don't worry, it's coming, and this session will be useful for you because you'll be ahead of the game of getting things ready to apply for the grant when that is ready to go. So the type of businesses that are eligible for the business growth grants are what we call low carbon and environmental goods and service providers. They're businesses that focus on decarbonising the energy system, or reducing the energy use in businesses, or the more efficient use of energy in the business, or maybe using more renewable technologies to produce energy in their business. It also includes businesses that deliver services or goods that improve or enhance energy and resource efficiency for their customers, and it also includes companies that preserve or enhance the natural environment. There's another term here called an LCRE, which these acronym terms I'm sharing with you today because they may pop up during your application process and you might not have come across them before, but they're terms that are used by our funders to recognise whether your business is eligible and qualify for the grant. Low carbon and resource efficient economy, as per the LoCASE category above. In a similar vein, they're companies that help with environmental technologies, environmental efficiencies, renewable energy services, low carbon services, electricity, heat, companies that are using developing energy from waste and biomass, for example. And this list, as I put there, is not exhaustive. We've got about 100 subcategories under all of those top headings there, which if you're not sure whether you fit in those or not, then come back to Kerry and myself to check. Okay, but I'm just sharing with you those acronym terms because that is part of our lovely world of grant funding, and you may come across them. So the types of projects that are eligible for business growth grants, they can include capital or revenue based projects. So this is the good news about the LoCASE programme. It's a lot of grant funds are just for capital equipment, but this does include revenue costs, which could include things like marketing costs, website development things, advertising. In the past, we've paid for costs towards advertising and maybe event exhibition expenditure. Not so much of that at the moment because we haven't got many events going on, but just to give you some idea of some of the types of projects we've funded in the past. It can include equipment. It generally doesn't include stock, materials either is a difficult one to try and apply for, but it can include costs such as intangible assets, so things like IT, IP protection, software. We've paid for things like SolidWorks and CAD licenses before. It can include consultancy costs, and I know on the call we have a consultant, so if a company is looking to develop ISO or other consultancy areas, maybe more around energy auditing or project management of installing some of these energy efficiency measures, that can be included in the grant. It can include business planning as well. And of course, it can include energy efficiency measures. Just because you are a clean or green business doesn't necessarily mean you can't apply to be cleaner or greener in your operations. So you can have a bit of both. You can have a business growth grant and some energy efficiency measures in the application. And of course, all of this, I think I covered, I might not have picked up on the last slide, but that means a 40% contribution towards those costs. And when we talk about a project, when we do the application, we should be wrapping up what your business need is into a sort of project, and would have to put forward a business case for that project in the application. So it should be something that's helping your business grow and not just sort of a one-off bit of expenditure. It should be something that's quite strategic and helping your business to grow and develop. So the other category we talked about was the energy efficiency grants, and I know there's some people on the call who maybe aren't necessarily delivering clean or green services or goods in their business, but they just want to try and reach some of our net zero and climate emergency targets and future-proof their business to be more energy efficient. And there are grants in the same vein, 40% contribution towards the costs of things like you've got here air source, ground source heat pumps, solar, LED lighting, and we've funded quite a few electric vehicles in the last round of funding. There's a cap on that of about £5,000. It can cover insulation, basically anything that's going to help your business become more energy and resource efficient. Again, this list is not exhaustive, and we suggest that if you've got any ideas for this, that you talk to Kerry and I on what is eligible, because there's lots of subcategories to this. So if you are what we call a non-LoCASE business, a non-low carbon and environmental service deliverer, I know we've got a dentist on the call, yes, you can get an energy efficiency grant. The process for that is just slightly different in that we work with our partner at East Sussex County Council to progress the grant application, and it is subject to an energy audit. That's part of the reason why those grants have been held up in the wider geography of our region at the moment, because we're just trying to procure an energy auditing company to do those grants. If you have had an energy audit before, or you've had some sort of assessment on your business and you've got quotes to do these energy efficiency measures in your business now, we can try and help progress the application, as long as we have got some validated information around the CO2 saving and the cost saving in the business that we can hopefully help progress with your application there. Kerry, please interrupt me if I'm forgetting anything on these slides.
Don't you worry, I'm paying attention.
The application process, and often we get asked, how long does it all take? In my experience, this has been one of the most easiest grants to apply for in my business support working career. It is quite a simple application process, and it doesn't take that long. The process that we ask businesses to go through is to complete an inquiry via our website, and there's a hyperlink here, and I'll share these slides with you all afterwards. That triggers an alert to Kerry, myself and our team to say, okay, we're interested in a grant. The next stage of that is we ask companies to complete an eligibility questionnaire, which is hosted on Kent County Council's website, because they are the lead partner in this, and they collect all the data, anything to do with government funding. If anybody's participated in government funding before, they will know there's always bits of paper and data that need to be collected. So that is part of the process. Once you complete the eligibility questionnaire, which has got information about the type of your business, your turnover, it might have some sort of financial probity questions in there around, suitability to take up the grant. The main criteria for the grant is that you do have to be an SME business, which means a small and medium-sized enterprise. You do need to have some sort of trading. You need to have a business status. You need to not be part of a larger group. And the other main criteria is that you couldn't have already received about £200,000 worth of EU funding in the last 3 years. There are some other smaller bits of criteria, but they're the main things. Once you've completed the eligibility questionnaire, you then have a short needs assessment with myself or Kerry or one of our team to just capture what the needs of your business are and what your project looks like. This sort of gives Kerry and I an opportunity just to check that that's a realistic project and that we can help sell your application, as it were, to the funding panel later on, and also check that you maybe haven't forgotten something that could be really beneficial to your business, or there might be some further support areas within the Green Growth platform we can provide. The next job is to go shopping, really go and find out what all of these measures in your projects might cost. So we ask you to get some quotes from suppliers. You might already have those. Those quotes need to be dated within the last 3 to 6 months. They need to outline what the measures are. It could include the carbon saving. It could include a breakdown of what the products or services are that you're requiring. And per item of expenditure in your grant application, you need to have 2 quotes, and that's a main criteria for the funding. If it is a item that there's only one provider in the world that does it, then that might be possible, but because it is public funds, we generally do have to try and get 2 quotes. Now, quite often that we have examples where people have worked with one marketing agency for the last 10 years and they want to carry on working with that marketing agency. That's fine. However, we do still need another quote just to ensure that there is good value for money in that, and that your supplier, isn't just putting in a high invoice and quote because they know that you're going to get 40% funding towards it. We need to try and make sure that it's sort of market rates. The next stage of the process is that you will complete an application form. It's quite a simple application form, quite short. It doesn't have to be backed up with a lengthy business plan or 3 years worth of accounts and lots of other company information like a lot of grants do. Kerry and I can help complete that application form, and I'll show you sort of the top side of that application in a moment. We generally ask that we get that application form completed and submitted 1 week prior to the panel, and Kerry and I collate all that information, collate your needs assessment, collate your quotes and your invoices and together, and submit them to Kent County Council on behalf of you. We have a grant panel that takes place monthly. Kerry and I sit on that grant panel, so our job is to go into bat for you and propose your project and to champion what you're trying to achieve, and also ask any questions on behalf of the other panel members on your project. At the end of the panel, we find out whether it's a yes or no. We make the decision there and then. We can update you of that decision, and the moment that we update you on that decision, you can go and buy your stuff. What we ask is that you don't purchase or commit to spend or put down any deposits of anything prior to that decision. the minute we send you an email to say yes, you can go and place your orders, but up until that point it's really important that you don't make any commitment to spend. Once you
it's also worth pointing out that once we submitted you for the grant panel, because all the due diligence is done by Lorraine and myself and work with you on the application, we wouldn't submit you unless we thought you had a pretty good chance, a high chance of being successful with the grant.
That's a really good point.
So it's actually it's worth noting that once we've sent it, like Lorraine says, please don't go shopping because you can't claim in retrospect. But it's a good positive sign that once we've hit that go button, you should be successful. But still wait for our answer. So
that's a really good point. And at the point of your the grant panel and being awarded your grant, you will need to purchase the items fully yourself and then submit a claim for the 40% contribution. So cash flow wise, you will need to have the funds to purchase the items and have proof that you've got that 60%, what they call match funding, to purchase the items that you're applying for, and then you would get the 40% contribution back. So the process for that is, after the grant panel, Kent County Council send out a grant funding agreement. You sign that, you send it back. This is all going to be electronically because nobody's sitting in the offices at Kent County Council at the moment. We send that grant form back, and then whenever you're ready to spend and claim your money, you send in evidence of that and claim your 40% contribution. Ordinarily, that process would take so maybe 3 to 6 weeks, and we hope that will still be the case. I don't see why not, as long as all your paperwork's in order and you receive the grant funds. So I've put a rough timeline there. We have got examples where someone's put in an application form and then claimed fairly quickly and got, from the moment they've put in the application form to claim has been about, within a month. But I suppose realistically, I think it's best to allow 1 to 3 months from that sort of start in the application phase to the money being in your account. And I think that's important to highlight, just for you to be able to manage cash flow in your business. Okay, we'll come back to any questions on that a bit later.
Yeah, just going back to the quotes. Oh, sorry, just going back to the quotes. If you're looking to obtain, for example, an air source heat pump, obviously there'll be installation costs with that, and they do like to see that those costs are broken down on the quotes, so the item cost and the installation cost as well, and that will also be 2 quotes for the item and for the installation.
Really good point.
Yeah. We've had a couple that have come back at the end of last year's programme where the install wasn't going to have happened before the programme finished. So they had to remove the installation cost, but they could put in another capital expenditure item and then not claim for the install, but another item within the project. So that still did work very well, but it is worth noting to include your install costs as well.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. Okay, the next slide. So the support that we provide, I sort of indicated throughout that sort of customer journey process is that, we are here to help with the forms, and we've done this for a little while now. We sort of know generally how to position the project business case. We know what the funders like to hear. You do need to get your company information together, so you will need figures on your last 3 years of sort of profit and loss and profit figures. You'll need things like your company's house and VAT registration numbers, and so you will need 2 quotes. They might not necessarily be formal invoices. Sometimes screenshots of items on websites might suffice, as long as they're current and dated. We can use those. There are some caps on items. So with the energy efficiency grant, the grant total is £5,000 there. However, if your project is going to be substantially reducing carbon, your carbon footprint, there may be a slight uplift of grant depending on the higher CO2 amount of savings. So in general, around about £1,000 addition per 2,000 carbon tons say per two tons of carbon saving. So but again, that gets a little bit complicated, so we'll work through that with you, but it's just to give you some idea. Also electric vehicles, there's about a £5,000 cap on electric vehicles as well, and it is electric only this time. In the last program of funding it was hybrid vehicles and electric, but this time it's purely electric. The other thing I didn't actually mention with energy efficiency measures, which is important, that if you are applying for a grant for solar PV or the air source ground source heat pumps, you would not be eligible for the other government tariffs, which are the feed-in tariffs or the renewable heat incentive grant. So you would need to make a calculation on whether, you know, which grant is most suitable. You basically can't have both grants. However, with the electric vehicles, you can have any government subsidies towards electric charge points and the LoCASE grant. So a little bit of detail in there, but it's important to share that with you. So yes, the final stage of the support we provide is to help you you know, claim your money. So you're after the point of the grant panel, your contact will then progress with Kent County Council just to do all your claiming and your sharing your receipts and so forth. But in the last round of funding, what we found is sometimes you put in an application for a couple of items, and then something happens in your business that means that you don't need to now buy those items because, I don't know, you've had a client change, or, you know, look at the things that have been thrown at us in the last year. You know, I don't know what's around the corner. But what we can sometimes do is go back to the Kent County Council and say, actually, we no longer need an electric vehicle. We feel that the priority in our business is to buy a new CNC machine or something that we need in our business, so we'd like to try and purchase that instead. And that's where Kerry and I can help liaise with Kent County Council on that and see whether we can, what we call, reprofile your grant award for something else. It's not encouraged, but we recognise that, you know, things in business change. We're in a moving environment at the moment. Okay, so the application assistance we can provide. The first, one of the first parts of the journey of applying for this grant is to fill out an eligibility questionnaire that I mentioned. This is hosted on Kent County Council's website. It's about a 3-page document. Lots of sort of questions about your business there, lots of tick boxes. It's quite simple to complete. If you're stuck, again, we can be on a call like this and talk you through. But that's just to sort of show what the eligibility questionnaire looks like. The next part is the grant application form, which again, we can support you with. I've included an example here of the type of information we put into a project overview and the business case, and this was for a company last year who are applying for a grant. We put in there some SMART outcomes of the grant to try and show and demonstrate that it's going to have a good impact on the business. The funders at the moment are recognising that obviously it's challenging times for businesses with the COVID situation and Brexit. So if you can demonstrate that your business has been impacted by those situations, we can include that in the project statement as well. So that just gives you an idea of the type of length of proposal. Some are shorter, some are longer. that we put in. And say if you're not familiar with that, that's the sort of thing Kerry and I can help articulate for you. That's not a problem. Just to share with you a couple of examples of companies we've worked with on the previous programme, and indeed supporting this company again for a second grant on this round. This company produce water saving control valves. They wanted a grant to help with the development of a new product that I say that helps with water saving. So they tick the box of the energy and resource efficiency criteria, which I started on early in the presentation. The funding and the advice that they received helped them to develop that product, and they were able to buy certain items and get a 40% contribution towards it for their products. And indeed, they're just about to put in another application for some energy efficiency measures and some equipment for their business. So they were successful. Another example is a waste recycling company in East Sussex, and they were able to use the grant on a new shredding and baling big bit of capital equipment there, and were successful in getting that grant. Kerry, do you want to share some information about these ones?
So these ones are two slightly different companies to give you a bit of a sort of a breadth as to the types of businesses and what they purchase. These also come under the low carbon environmental service business areas. One of them is a sustainable wood designer. So he actually makes bespoke items of furniture for a lot of designers up in central London and those sorts of places, but he has diversified into, as you can see in the picture, tree houses and sustainable log cabins. Those projects came about during COVID, which is always good to see that a company is sort of diversifying and still growing. He had a lot of inquiries during lockdown for home offices, as you'd expect, everyone's now working at home, and they brought forward plans, obviously because of the situation at the moment, to get their home offices up and running. He builds them out of waste material, sustainably sourced materials and wood, and what he wanted to do was to purchase an air source heat pump and other sustainable insulation materials to build his first prototype log cabin. I only spoke to him the other day, and he said he's never been so busy. So as a result, he's been able to employ a new member of staff and safeguard a number of other positions in the company. So it's worked really well for him, obtaining the LoCASE grant. The company at the bottom, Upcycling Furniture Restorer, for them it's all about reducing landfill waste. So they take people's pieces of furniture that you've got sitting in the corner of a lounge, for example, that you might think, oh, I'll go and purchase a new piece of modern furniture. But what they actually do, they've got quite a big retail shop, in East Sussex, and they are actually really busy. They purchased some new machinery back in August, so they could do some laser cutting and modify old pieces of furniture and restoration projects as well. So both of these companies, they are low carbon services, and they did purchase equipment. Again, it's about the installation of the air source heat pump, and he also had what we call a bit of both, the treehouse chap, in terms of he had some software, some CAD software for design on top of his air source heat pump and installation material. And so they're all success stories. They've all done really well, given the situation with COVID right now. So those are really good examples of how they utilise and use their LoCASE grants.
Yeah, and we've got many more examples as well of people who have just wanted to apply for the energy efficiency grants, and that such projects included things like LED lighting. We have put new roofs on garages. We've on sort of commercial motor garages, for example. We have used done installation projects, and again, because of the lockdown, we had a lot of projects coming in last year around purchasing things like laptops or iPads to be able to work remotely, and looking at you know, what other efficiencies and software are needed to be able to work from home and be able to deliver their services remotely as well. So it can, as Kerry says, it can include software licenses and IT support as well. Okay, so some of the, you might come up with some of these questions yourselves, but they're probably in the top 4 or 5 that Kerry and I get asked mostly. So it is a grant, you haven't got to pay it back. As long as you send in your evidence and you've got the correct paperwork, and the evidence would be the invoice and a proof of payment, so a bank statement and your proof of payment, remittance advice, things like that, remittance notice. It's not a loan, so yep, just to re-emphasize, it is a non-repayable grant. What's the catch? There isn't one. The only pain, I suppose, is completing the paperwork, but as I mentioned earlier, compared to some grants we've supported, it's very minimal on that side. And you know, there is up to £10,000 grant here available, so the maximum project size is 25,000. The minimum grant amount is 1,000, so the project size would be 2,500. So it's not for small items, it is for a sort of a decent sized project. And I say that there's the best part of 3 bits of paperwork to complete: the energy, the eligibility criteria, the grant application form, and then talking with Kerry and I around the needs assessment. And then finally you will have to complete your grant confirmation paperwork as well, and that's and your evidence. So it's not an exhaustive process for the amount of money you can get. And basically, can a low carbon business get energy efficiency grants? Then yes, as we said, it's a bit of both. They can have business support stuff in there and energy efficiency. And then, can any business get the LoCASE business grant? The answer to that is no, but through your local growth hub there are other grants available, depending on your type of business. So if you are, for example, we've got a dentist on board, you wouldn't be eligible for the business growth grant, but you would be eligible for the energy efficiency grant. So can you see a slide that says next steps?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so our next steps are, or the next steps for yourselves, if you're not already part of Clean Growth UK, we encourage you to join. And if you want to get our support on that, on the application, then we encourage you to join. We also have some really useful resources on our website, which include a funding table and business resources. Oh, someone's just dropped out of the lobby. Can you bring them in, Kerry?
Yeah, it's Cat. Fine.
And the other use resource on our member page is our business directory. So anybody who's a member of Clean Growth UK is in our business directory. So, for example, if you're looking for a solar PV provider or an LED provider, you can do a search on our business directory and find local suppliers. Now, we're not a tracker trade. We don't do, you know, haven't got any business reviews on there. However, you know, you can check out which local companies are available to come and do or give quotes to you on particularly the energy efficiency side of things. So we encourage you to look at that. There's also a funding table on that website. So if you might apply for the LoCASE grant, but may be interested in some other business support that's available and other grants that are available, that will be listed on the funding table. And there's some quite useful videos and business resources on there as well, just to generally help your business. If you're in an absolute rush in West Sussex and Brighton and Hove and you can't wait until probably March, April time for your grant, our partners at Green Tech South and the University of Portsmouth are running a similar grant programme called Emphasis 3. It's not 40% contribution of grant, it's about 36%, but still, you know, a good grant available there. And also those in West Sussex and Brighton and Hove can apply for the Invest 4 grant scheme as well, which is around business grant. It's around business growth. So I've place both the links of those in these next steps, which will be in the slides which I share with you. But yes, the next steps, contact us if you want to apply for the grant. We've got some trial grant panels in February for a couple of grants we've got ready in the pipeline to go, but we feel that the next grant panels will be in March, April going forward. As I say, if you've got an urgent project, an urgent need, get in contact with us and we'll see whether we can try and put you forward for a February panel, but it's probably likely going to be March now. If you've got any other questions that we haven't covered and you maybe don't feel like you want to ask in front of the whole call here as well, then our emails are detailed there. Get in touch via that route or via our website.